Hello and welcome to the first official episode of the All Sports Podcast. I am one of three co-hosts of this podcast. My name is Lachlan Turner. I'll let the other two co-hosts introduce themselves.
Hey guys, my name is Sumit Kudav. I am one of the other co-hosts, and our third is
McDonald.
Right, now that we've all introduced ourselves, I think it's best to talk about the important cricket series coming up, the Ashes series, the most important series in Australia, cricket series in Australia's history. Now, I have heard with England that a few of their players have said that if their families can't come along, that they won't be coming along. Sumit, would you care to explain what you've heard or what you know about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have heard and read about about Josh Butler. Apparently, he said that if families aren't allowed and if they'll have to hard quarantine, then he would not like to be part of the Ashes series this year. And the captain Joe Root has also said the same thing, that similar thing, that if they had to have to hard quarantine, then it would be hard for him to make the decision to come to Australia. And also the fact that Cricket Australia has been giving the ECB minimal information regarding lockdowns and quarantining, and so it is a bit tough on the England players to make a decision, especially since these squad selections are about, I think, 2 weeks away. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you bring up a good point, and I think the other thing is, I don't necessarily blame, because they've got young families. I'm pretty sure both of them, and if they had to spend the Christmas away from them, I don't know if in previous series they brought their family over in. I'm not entirely sure, but if they have, I just don't see a problem with why they can't bring their families in, because it'll depend on maybe they might say, look, if you're double vaxxed, all good, but I don't think it should necessarily come down to that. I mean, we've seen a number of cricketers, since COVID was a thing, struggle with, not being with family. Which is a little bit, you can understand that side of it. Now, the three of us have come up with our potential squads for both countries, England and Australia. We will tell you our squad for the first 11, and we'll hear each other. We'll see what each other has to say about each squad. Because as we all know, everybody thinks differently, and we all probably have different players in the squad. So I'll start off with my Aussie squad. I've got David Warner opening with Will Pucovski at number 3. I've got Marnus Labuschagne. Number 4 is Steve Smith. Travis Head at number 5. Cameron Green at number 6. Tim Payne, number 7. Mitch Starc, 8. Pat Cummins, number 9. Nathan Lyon, 10. And Hazelwood, 11. Sumit, would you care to share your Aussie squad?
Yeah, absolutely. So my playing 11 for Australia, pretty much until Stephen Smith, it is the same as yours. Pucovski, Warner, Labuschagne, Smith. At 5, I've added Matthew Wade. Tim Payne comes in at number 6. At 7, I have Cameron Green. And then 8, 9, 10, 11, I have Cummins, Starc, Hazelwood, and Lyon.
Very nice. That interesting there. What about you, Liam? Who have you got in your playing 11?
Funnily enough, Lockie, I have the exact same 11 as you do. No collusion, no prior planning. We have the exact same 11.
Well, isn't that...
Pucovski, Marnus, Smith, Head, Green, Payne, Cummins, Starc, Lyon, Hazelwood.
Well, that's very interesting. Now, I highlighted 3 players that I believe are a bit, 50-50, which are Will Pucovski, Tim Payne, and Mitchell Starc. Now, we all know Will Pucovski, he hasn't been there mentally. And, we all saw him make a pretty good first impression on the test last year.
Yeah.
Although you must remember he only got to his 50 after India dropped 3 catches. So we can't forget that. But he's really talented. He can be patient. He's willing to do the hard yards. If Australian trouble, he will. He'll stick fat. He will be patient. But if there's runs to be scored, he'll hit them. He'll hit the ball, which is what you need.
Exactly. His previous Shield season had also been very, very, very good. He was very impressive.
Well, that's exactly right. But I've highlighted his name, as I said, because we don't know if he's going to be there. So, who do you guys think could replace Bukowski if he wasn't there? I personally don't think Joe Burns will get another shot.
No,
I think
not in openers. But for me personally, I reckon, even though this player hasn't played many tests since last Ashes, I reckon Usman Khawaja would be a good pick for in case of the Bukowski situation.
I agree. I don't know if you know this, Liam, but I think he's been an opener. I think 7 innings. His average is extraordinary. So, I mean, I reckon I believe you've got to pick players on form, and if he's batting well as an opener, and he has previously at Test Arena, and you've got no one else, he'd be very good, I'd say. Would you say Sean Marsh could be up there for a opening spot if that was the case?
Well, that's the thing. Sean Marsh doesn't open for Western Australia, does he?
I'm not entirely sure, but I mean, who else could open though? Other than if Bukowski doesn't make it, I don't see them picking Joe Burns because he'll just throw away his wicket doing something silly. Khawaja's the only other one that I can think of.
Well,
Marcus Harris.
Back to Harris. Harris
but
did do a reasonable shift as the opener when everyone was out because of the.
But I don't think. But he did.
South Africa.
He didn't make a score though. That was thing. But then again, it is hard to make a score when you're not getting a consistent run at it, which unfortunately for him, that's been the case. The other guy. Now, I heard that you had Matthew Wade in your lineup, Sumit. Can you explain why you've left Travis Head out for Wade?
Yeah, I don't know. Like the last series in Australia, when India came to Australia, Travis said he performed in a couple of innings, but I didn't feel that his performance had that much of an impact. Whereas I felt Matthew Wade had more of an impact in the last, earlier this year and last time when India came to Australia as well. So that's just gave him a little edge over Head.
I respect that. We all have, as I said, different opinions and thoughts on, who should get selected. And, I think Head gets in over that because, I think long term, I reckon Head, once he finally, gets it past his head, I've got past 40, let me just dig in here because I think that's been like, you notice every time he gets like anywhere between 20 and 40, you're nervous that he's just going to get himself out playing.
He does something wrong. And he looks good, but then, yeah.
Whereas Matthew Wade, he got himself out on numerous times just playing silly shots, which, and look, he's what, about 33? Something like that. He's in his early 30s, mid-30s.
I reckon, mid-30s.
So it's a bit, look, that could go either way. The next player I highlighted, now I don't know about you. We all know the situation with Tim Payne that he had surgery. What was it? Was it a disc in his back?
I think so, yeah.
Chronic back pain or something.
Chronic back. Look, we all know that. That's not. That's unfortunate. You don't wish that on anybody. But who would be the keeper to replace him? The only bloke I can think of at the top of my head that would be worthy of that, who's ready, is Alex Carey. He's got international experience. Otherwise, who else keeps? You don't want to give Marnus a go because he can bowl.
That is true, but then, you also would want to have the experience factor because I don't think Alex Carey is that experienced in tests and international tests, and, Ashes is one of the, Ashes is the biggest, it's a thing on the cricketing calendar in Australia. So, there is that bit of
But who do they turn? Matthew Wade. They could turn back to him, possibly.
Maybe, yeah.
Go with Damien Inglis, the West Australian.
Joe Inglis.
That's the basketball for the Utah Jazz. I'm talking about. Damien. Is it Damien Inglis or Inglis?
No.
Is it Josh Inglis?
Josh Inglis. Sorry, yes, it's Josh Inglis. Yeah, he's right. He's right. That's right, because but he got selected for the T20 World Cup squad. He's in the squad for Australia, so I don't think he'd make it back in time. But saying that, he's still young and can probably do a little bit more learning because he has got himself out playing some outrageous shots. Let's not lie. And then, the other bloke I highlighted is Mitchell Stark. Actually, also other 2019-20 summer between Pakistan and New Zealand, he's been shocking. His average has just been poor. And, even the tail enders now, which used to be his strength getting them out, they're whacking him out.
That's true, yeah. He definitely has had a drop in form since then.
Who could come in for him, though? I've got two names in particular that I think, three. Jai Richardson, that's one name. James Pattinson or Michael Neza.
Oh, yeah. He deserves a game.
He does, yeah. I've got
like the next bowler up.
That's true.
But then again, Jai Richardson, we all saw what he did when he played. He played, albeit though it was against Sri Lanka, and we do, there's a bit of a difference there. But without that shoulder injury, I mean, if he didn't injure his shoulder, I reckon he would have played the series, like the Ashes series in 2019 in England. Like I reckon he would have been over there selected, but I don't think it was because he was injured.
I think so.
Yeah, look, I agree with Michael Nessa. He's been 12th man multiple times the past couple of years. He definitely deserves his shot. I do agree. But is he now? I know I'm probably thinking more so long term, but long term, who would you rather, Jai Richardson or Michael Nessa?
Long term, I don't know. Michael Nessa was in the Ashes squad in 2019, but I don't think he got a chance to play a game. So I'd go with Michael Nessa. But if you ask me who would replace Mitchell Stark, then my first choice would be James Pattinson.
That's fair. And going on that, he did say that this summer would be his last crack at it. So I think that's logical. Yes, he can go for runs, but unlike Stark, I think he can also dig in with the bat.
And he can bounce back. After he has a couple of bad overs, he can bounce back.
He can, yes. No, that's exactly right. So, have we settled on a playing 11? Like all three of us, have we settled on a playing 11? So we've got someone, write this down or whatnot. So we've got
a combined 11, are we?
Yeah, we're going to do a combined 11.
We've got Warner and Pekoski, Marner, Smith. They're four that we all have.
Yep.
So then we've got 5, Head or Wade.
I'm going Head. I still think that's a...
Yeah, I reckon Head, A, because he's younger than Wade. B, because B, because he used to be the vice captain.
Yeah.
He
was
Payne's vice captain for a little while. So.
Head, are you okay with that, Sumit? You're not going to...
Yeah, I reckon we'll go with Head.
Yep. And then I've got Cameron Green at number 6.
Yeah.
Is that all right? Now, the wicketkeeper, if Tim Payne isn't right, I reckon Matthew Wade. Because he's got...
Interesting.
Well, he was the keeper, though.
And he got dropped as the keeper, and he got picked again because he gave up keeping for Victoria and has... Wait, does he keep at Tasmania? Or is Payne keep?
He does. No, I think. Wait, no. Oh no, because doesn't he? He might split it with Ben McDermott. If Ben McDermott isn't then I think he does keep.
But yeah, Wade got picked again as a batsman. So
maybe not Tim Payne. Alex Carey.
I reckon Alex Carey would be the first and foremost choice, but they still have the wicket keeping problem is a big issue for Australia.
Well, I'd go Alex Carey if Tim Payne isn't right. So
they
that's
they need to give Carey a shot at some point. 4 or 5 years he's been the heir apparent.
yeah.
Like, it's
So
like,
are we happy? Are we happy with Carey though?
yeah, I'm fine with Carey. If Payne doesn't get up, I'm fine.
Yeah,
with
if Payne doesn't, okay. Now Mitchell Starks, I'm going to go with Pattinson on this. I'm not certain that Starks is going to get up.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Pattinson as well.
I'd still say that we're more likely to start Stark in the first test than Pattinson. But if you guys want to go with Pattinson, then I'm fine.
Yeah, Pattinson. Make sure somebody's writing this down as well. And then obviously the last three sorts itself out, like Cummins, Lyon, and Hazelwood. That's
that's.
Oh well,
yeah.
And then all right, so for England, now this is the interesting one because they've got so many question marks. It's like I don't even know where to start. Like their opening batsmen are just ordinary. Number 3, 6 and 7, and then then another bowler. So at the moment, I'll go through my England squad, and then obviously Sumit, you go through yours, and then Liam, yours. For the England first 11, I've got Rory Burns, opening with Hasib Hamed, Darwood Milan at number 3, Joe Root at number 4, Ollie Pope at number 5, Johnny Bairstow at number 6, Josh Butler number 7, Chris Wokes 8, Stuart Broad 9, Ollie Robinson 10, James Anderson 11. That's my England 11.
Okay. Got a couple of changes in that for mine. For the bowling, batting is pretty much same as yours. Rory Burns, number 1. Number 2, Hasim Hamid. Number 3, Dawood Milan. Number 4, Joe Root. Number 5, Ollie Pope. Number 6, maybe Josh Butler or Johnny Bairstow. Number 7, I have Chris Wokes. Number 8, Ollie Robinson. Number 9, Mark Wood. Number 10, I have added in a spinner in Jack Leach. And 11, obviously, is Anderson.
Yep.
And
there.
Me, I've got Rory Burns and Hasib Hamid opening. Dawood Milan at 3. Joe Root 4. Ollie Pope at 5. Johnny Bairstow at 6. Wokes at 7. Sam Curran at 8. Ollie Robinson at 9. Jack Leach 10. And Jimmy Anderson at 11.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, look, we can definitely say that we're confident saying that the first 4 are selected. But, I mean, as I said, their second and third batsmen, they've had issues with that for a while now. They could go back to being a bit younger with, I think his name is Zach Crawley.
Yeah. They have a few options, actually, in Zach Crawley, Dom Sibley.
Dom Sibley's grinds it out. He was the opener. He could work at number 3. That's maybe that's something that they could work out. But I think that Hasib Hamid did really well, I thought, in those last, when he did play. I think he played the last 2 test matches that
He
were
did, yeah. His first innings, not
he got a duck in the first innings, but
after a golden, but you can't blame him. It was a great ball, but then after that, he did come back to score
a couple of 50s as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And then number 3, Dawood Milan, wasn't too bad.
Wasn't too bad. He did really good. I was impressed by him.
And he actually started the series off when England played Australia last time, like in Australia. He actually started off okay, but then I think he faded away. So maybe that could be a factor. Joe Root 4, that's just a given.
Yeah, exactly.
There could be an argument to be made that it might be better for them for Joe Root to bat at 3. But it's the same thing that we had with Steve Smith in Australia for ages. So
yeah, but the thing is though,
it's better for like the player to bat at 4. Like both of them get the bulk of their runs at 4. So
yeah, look, I think England. Really, it just we'll go through the rest of this, and then obviously we can make our early predictions of who we think is going to win the series. I've got number 5. We're happy with Ollie Pope at number 5. I think he scored a few runs late in this series. I know in the last test he scored an 80.
He did in the first innings, yeah.
All right. So are we happy with Ollie Pope at number 5?
Yeah.
Yep. Pretty happy. Now number 6, I have Johnny Bairstow because I tell you why I only have 4 bowlers. I can't see them. Australia's pitches, they're batting friendly. And England's batting isn't the strongest. And, Chris Wokes can bat as well. I think he he may have made one Test century from memory. At his so they've got 3 pure bowlers. I mean, I've got them down as 3 pure bowlers. You know, Wokes is that bowling all-rounder because I think he's pretty good at both. I can't see them bringing in 5 bowlers just because, you know, Australian pitchers, they're very bad at friendly.
Yeah, but that's exactly why I have them bringing in 5 bowlers, because they're batting friendly. And if you don't get the new ball right, you're going to be in the field for a while. And so if you've got 4 quicks and Joe Root as your bowlers, you have to be worried about your quicks not being able to bowl all the overs.
Australia are going to pretty much have the exact same thing though. Like they're going to have four quicks and Lyon. They're going to have Green, Stark or Pattinson.
I'd much rather have Lyon bowl 30 overs than have Joe Root bowl 30 overs.
Well, yeah, no, obviously, but but they don't need 5 fast bowlers. That's what I'm saying. They can work with 4. They don't need 5.
Yeah, no, but you didn't. Did you pick a spinner?
I didn't. No.
Yeah, exactly. So
I had Joe Root as their part-time.
Yeah, so you've gone with 4 quicks and Joe Root.
Well, then none of you had Broad in your squad, did you?
No, I didn't go with Broad. I went with Sam Curran instead.
Yeah, look, that again. So who do you want in at number 6 though? Butler or Besto, whoever keeps, because see,
because of my 5 bowler policy, I don't actually have Butler in my team. I've got Besto as the keeper.
Okay,
I will admit, not having Butler in is probably an oversight. But
after hearing what he said about how he might not come if they don't, well, then that's probably fair. So should we go with Johnny Besto as the keeper then? Are we gonna be okay with that?
Well, number 6, Besto plays as the keeper if they're both in the team anyway, doesn't he?
No, Butler does.
Oh, never mind then. Don't mind me.
keep up with the England cricket. No, so I'll be happy with Bairstow going in at number 6.
Yeah, I reckon.
All right.
Well, that's where he is on mine. So yes, I'll take it.
All right. Have you all got Chris Wokes in your side at least?
Yeah, I've got Wokes batting at 7.
Wokes comes in at number 8. Number
8. I've actually got Ollie Robinson.
The question is, do we want to go with 5 bowlers or do we want to go with Butler and 4 bowlers? That seems to be the sticking point in our team.
Okay, Butler and 4 bowlers. I 100% agree. Well, then who misses out? I can't see Anderson or Ollie Robinson missing out for the bowlers.
Anderson and Robinson are locks.
They're locks. Chris Wokes would be a lock.
Purely because of the fact that he can bat very good and his pace is
Okay. So number 7's Butler. 8 is Wokes.
Yep. And then just go Robinson 9 and Anderson 11. So we're picking another 10.
I mean, you want a spinner in there, don't you?
Yeah, see, because then based on the teams that we've already picked, it's a 3-way contest between Leach, Curran, and Broad.
I mean, I'd pick Leach.
I'd pick Leach too.
I can't see Broad playing the first test.
Now, I'd probably agree with Leach, but there is also an argument to be made that Sam Curran could get in simply because he's a left-arm bowler.
Left-arm spin bowler, that's true.
That's true.
The but then again, pace variation could be handy.
Especially to somebody like, especially to the right-handers, they might struggle with that. So, look, that...
But, that being said, if we're going to pick a spinner, we kind of have to go with Leach or someone like Dom Bess.
Yeah. No, I go Leach. Dom Bess he hasn't done much since.
But then who of Anderson, Robinson and Wokes does Curran get in ahead of?
I'd say not.
He gets in ahead of any of them.
He doesn't, no.
So.
Yeah, for me, I don't think Curran would get a spot in the team.
I don't, unless, because we all know that they have a rotation policy, which, I'm a bit, 50-50 with because, look, it is good to keep your bowlers, fresh and whatnot, but you want consistency as a player. And by doing that, not getting consistency. With the older players, yes. Like, I'd rotate Broad with Anderson and swap them. but that's it. The others,
Also, you have the pace factor as well, because you see Sam Kerr and he rarely gets in the 140s as well. And Australian pitches are kind of known to be a bit more
know who I
bouncier and
completely
rougher
forgot?
than others.
Who Sumit had on his list and we've just completely forgot? Mark
who,
Wood.
Exactly. I was
Mark Wood
about to
brings
talk
pace.
about him too.
look, I still don't think though that they'll have it, because look, each, like, regardless, Australia has maybe a bowler or two that can bat or have proven to be batters, and that's Cummins and stuff. They can, or Pattinson if he gets selected. They can bat. I feel like England need one of those guys, and Wokes is more of a batter than Wood. And Wood would, if he was to play, he'd bat in at number 11. But unfortunately, Jimmy Anderson has that spot locked in. He's the last batsman coming in. So I can't see Mark Wood coming in. And he can be very wayward as well, like very inconsistent with his lines, and he does get smacked a bit. So that's just.
He does get smacked a bit.
So I mean, so we're all good with the top 7. We got the top 7. We've got Robinson and Anderson at 9 and 11. We need 8 and 10.
So let me write this down. Okay, so
I'm
writing this down.
Still,
Burns, Hamid, Milan.
Milan, then we got Root. And who comes after Root?
yep,
It's Pope.
Pope. Then we got Bairstow and Butler.
Then you got Bairstow, Butler. Wait, both of them in the team?
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
we're going
what.
with 4
okay.
bowlers. That's what we're doing at the moment.
Yeah. 4 ball.
Alrighty. Bairstow and Butler then.
Bairstow, Butler, and then Wokes is the definite after that.
Yep. And then number 10 and 11 are definite. It's Ollie Robinson and James Anderson. Who the fuck's going to be? You're probably going to have to edit that out. Who the hell is going to be the number 9? Do you want to?
So 8 is Robinson.
No.
Sorry?
Oh, 8 is Wokes.
Wokes, yes.
9 is question mark at the moment. 10 and 11 are Robinson and Anderson at the moment.
Okay. Robinson and Anderson.
Okay.
I mean, but if you guys want to play a spinner, I'm all for it. I'm not going to go against that. I do agree they need to play a spinner, but we know that the Aussie pitches are, as you said, they're really bouncing, whatnot.
But then I reckon having a spin could be beneficial to them.
Yeah, and and of all the English spinners at the moment, Jack Leach would probably be the perfect one. So
exactly, yeah, and you see the Australians as well, like how good they've done with Nathan Lyon being the sole spinner in the team. Labuschagne does, but you'd rely on Nathan Lyon. So
Jack Leach it is. All right. After you've written that down, someone announce our combined squad. Who we
righto. So our combined squad for England is number 1, Rory Burns, and number 2, Asim Hamid as our openers. Dawid Malan comes in at number 3, followed by Joe Root at number 4. Ollie Pope at number 5 with Johnny Bairstow at number 6. Butler at 7. And the 4 bowlers, 8 is Wokes, 9 is Leach, 10 is Robinson, and 11 is Jimmy Anderson.
Now, actually, another important thing that we kind of neglected in the Australian team, it's kind of straightforward for England because Root's captain and we picked, Butler's team, so
yeah, that's right. I know what you're going to say. Who's going to be
captain for Australia if Tim Payne doesn't get up?
That is true.
Because that's something, because we've got Carey in there as a if Payne doesn't get up, and we haven't actually said.
I have to say Cummins. I know that it's against the tradition to, for captains, but he has to. He's the vice captain. And I don't think, look, as much as I love Steve Smith, the player, I don't think he can captain the side again. Not after what he did. Because it just ruins the reputation and really, I'd say the integrity of Australia. I just can't see
it. It will raise a lot of eyebrows if Steve Smith is put up as captain.
But if Travis Head was still currently the vice captain, I would have said him, but I don't think he's capable of that at the moment. So the only other guy I can think of is Pat Cummins.
I'd agree with you.
He can't go with Head because he doesn't have a concrete position in the squad.
Exactly.
But exactly right. And don't want to go Labuschagne because he's still a bit too inexperienced.
Because in an
He was a bit
ideal
young as
world,
well.
it would be one of Warner or Smith. But Warner
But-
has got a lifetime ban on being captain for an Australian team.
I can't. I'm sorry, but I cannot. I will say with Australia, I will not be happy if Australia selects Smith if Tim Payne is not fully fit. I will not be happy because I just don't get it. He has already disgraced himself as a captain, and I don't get how Australia can confidently say if Tim Payne isn't right that he can just go and.
You know what?
I
The
agree.
naming Cummins thing could actually work because it's what for an Ashes series, right?
Yeah,
Tim Payne will hopefully be back at some point during the series.
yeah.
So if he's not back for the first, say, 2 tests, it's a perfect opportunity to throw in Cummins and then see how it goes with Cummins as the captain.
Exactly.
If he gets burnt out or
Yeah. And look, I know we all are for, you know, second chances, but honestly, we'd have to go with Cummins.
Yeah, I'd go Cummins as well. It's clearly it's a no-brainer in my opinion. It is a no-brainer in my opinion. So are we happy in like so first of all, we're happy with the England squad that we said and the Australian squad. You know, if I know, Liam, would you like to announce the Australian squad?
well, the Warner Pekoski opening, Marnus at 3, Smith at 4, Head 5, Green at 6, and then Payne or Carey as the keeper. It's if Payne gets up, then Payne, but otherwise Carey. Then Cummins, then Pattinson, then Lyon, then Hazelwood.
Yep. I agree with that. That's just, hopefully you listeners out there either agree or disagree. You know, we are open to feedback. Just, maybe DM us on Facebook or send us a message on Instagram to, let us know what you think, of, who should, your first 11 or,
Absolutely, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well. You know, it'll give us a bit of insight as well, especially if you're from because obviously we are not from England, and we could we'd like
we'd like
your thoughts on it.
Yes, and I think that's a good way to kind of. I won't say this is a good time to kind of move on to the next.
Oh, there's one more thing we have to do, Lockie. You can't forget the most important thing. Way too early.
Oh,
don't even know the squads. Who's winning?
Winning. I'd say Australia are winning.
How many?
5-0.
5-0. Clean sweep. Oh,
yep. Joe Root's performance in the past couple of Australian Ashes tours in Australia have not been good. So
forget Joe Root. The whole for the last Ashes series in 2017, 18. England had a 4-0. So England was 0, Australia won 4, and there was 1 draw. Whereas for the previous one in 2013-14, it was 5-0. So I reckon if not a 5-0 whitewash, then at least a 4-1 win for Australia.
The thing is though, what it's going to come down to, you look at Australia's batting. If Smith doesn't bat well, you can probably put your hand up and say Labuschagne's going to dig in, and who knows, Green might dig in. But for England, it's a completely different story. It rests on Joe Root. Now, that's unfair for him. Yes, he's the captain, but he shouldn't have to do all the batting if they end up collapsing.
Exactly, and as you saw in the third test against fourth test against England, against India in England as well. And England got off to a great start in the final innings, with 100-run partnership and 50s from both the openers Burns and Hamid. But then after both of them fell, and as well as Root, nobody did anything. So
yeah. What Liam? We all know you.
I'm going to go with 3-1. I'm going to say that Aussies are going to win the series 3-1. England will have that one game where everything clicks for them, and Australia just don't have the answers. That's going to happen. That happens in pretty much every series. Because, yes, you'd say that on paper the Australians are going to win the series over England, right? But it's not like the gap is so vastly wide that it's definitely 5-0
No.
split.
Yeah, no, that's
Oh,
true.
that is
I mean,
true.
I-
That
And
is
I'm going
true.
to say there's going to be the one game where the bowlers just can't get wickets, and it's going to be a draw.
That's
Yeah.
true, and it will be on one of the flat pitches as well. Either
MCG.
at Melbourne, either at Sydney. So and as we've seen before, England do really good on flat pitches. So
Yep.
we'll see.
So to reinforce of what we just said, I believe that the Ashes series, and this is the way too early predictions. We don't know the squad. We don't know anything.
We don't know if it's happening.
We don't know if it's
Mhm.
happening either. That's a good point. I'm predicting a 5-0 clean sweep, Australia winning that. Sumit is predicting a 4-1 Australia victory, and Liam is predicting a 3-1 Australia victory with a draw at either Melbourne or Sydney. So there you have it. That's our kind of, what would you say, Ashes preview, would you say?
Ashes preview, yeah, and obviously when the actual squads come out, we will have another podcast with our thoughts on it, and
Yep.
We'll
there.
compare.
So
We'll see
keep in
how
tune for
close
that.
we were. Well, we haven't really done squads, but I guess when we get around to the first test, we'll see how close we actually were.
And I think people would be surprised. We could be pretty close. We might not be close, but you know what? We won't know
so
until the
far
first.
off, it's not funny.
We could be so off it's not funny, but you know what? You just never know until that coin toss happens.
Hey, so now that we've talked about one great Aussie pastime in cricket, we're going to move on to the sport that's literally named after the country, Aussie rules football, and it's silly season. The main headline of our discussion today about the silly season is going to be LT's 5 clubs to look out for. So I guess without further ado, LT, what is club number 1?
Right. Before I name the clubs, I want to point out to everybody, I listed every club and their draft picks and every club and their players that potentially could go to them. So, for example, I've got for Brisbane, in question marks, Levi Casbolt and Darcy Fort, and, Riley West with Essendon, Jordan Clark, Freo, you get the picture. So I'll start off with club number 1. Club number 1 that I highlighted as a club to watch out for, to be really active in this free agency / trade period, is Carlton, which shouldn't really surprise anybody, considering that they've been one of the most active clubs in the off season for the past decade. They've got picks 6, 25, 61. Now, the players that they are definitely going to get are, Adam Chera, George Hewitt, and by the way, breaking news, George Hewitt, I'm pretty sure, looking at the news, Carlton have lodged the paperwork for George Hewitt.
Like 4-year deal, 450
4-year deal,
grand.
which
Season
yes, and I'm not entirely sure why, considering that they probably do have a number of players that can play that role, and what does that mean for guys like Paddy Dow and Lockie O'Brien? Lockie O'Brien might not necessarily play that that role that Hewitt's coming into play, but what does that mean for him? Like as a midfielder, that, which is interesting. Other players that have been linked to Carlton are, Jared Brander. There was another player that I can't think of that was also linked to Carlton. And the other reason why I do believe.
Did you say Chera already?
No, I said Chera. And
I'm just slow. Don't worry.
But for the Chera deal, the rumor is they are possibly wanting to split pick 6 for the Chera deal. What that means, I don't know what that means for them or how that's going to look, but Fremantle have said that they would like pick 6 and they don't want it to be split. So that could be a little bit interesting in my opinion for that. Do you guys want to add any input to that to that club and why?
Well, I guess one question I have is, other than the fact that they seem to be one of the busier clubs this off-season, is how does these projected changes or potential changes lift Carlton in going into next season?
Again, that's something that you can't. I can't answer. I'll explain this. It's all good having all these talented players. Like, there's no doubt Adam Cherry is like talented, but that can only take you so far. I mean, you just look at the Carlton squad this year, and they had multiple players on high pay, and where did they end up? It's all about the effort. And then, a few years ago, Essendon had the most All-Australian players on their squad, and they, in those 2 seasons in which they had the most All-Australian players on their squad, got bombed out in the finals. They got absolutely killed by Sydney, and then missed out in the 8 the year later. So I don't think this looks like it's all good. Carlton fans are going to be like, yay, we're getting Adam Cherry. But until they prove that, that they're willing to put in the effort, and not just be happy with honourable losses, I think, that remains, I'd make a judgment on Carlton after the first, I'd say 8, or we'll go 6 to 8 games, and those first 6 to 8 games will tell you what the rest of the year is going to be like. I think that's kind of the same with every other club. Sometimes it doesn't happen, but most of the time that's the case. In the first,
Fair enough. Very well done.
What was that? Sorry? Did you say something? I couldn't quite hear you.
Oh, I was going to say fair enough. Well said.
Yep. What about you, Sumit? Do you have any questions in regards to that?
I got a question in regards to the draft picks. So I've just been reading a bit, and it says that with Richmond they have 2 draft picks under 15, number 7 and 15, and 4 draft picks under 30. So with 26 and 28 as well. So what are your thoughts on that? I reckon.
You know what's funny? I've got them on my list. So when I get to Richmond, I can answer that question for you.
Great. All right.
Are you happy with that?
Yeah, sure. No worries.
All right. So the next club I've got is, hear me out in this. I've got Collingwood, who have got picks 36, 39, 41, 45. The players, well, we saw the other day, Pat Lipinski, the Bulldog, has requested a trade to the Pies, and Nathan Kruger in a bit of a question mark. He has been rumoured for Collingwood. I'd like to go to Collingwood, but we're unsure of that. Now, I've got them in that kind of bracket is because they need draft picks to get Nick Dacos. He's going to be a top 2, top 3 draft selection in this year's draft. And I'll get to it in a bit later, but they don't have the draft points to get him. So they're going to have to maneuver something, whether that means they trade out a player, potentially, maybe trade out Braden Maynard, get picks before, he potentially walks in free agency next year.
Are you sensing a bit of a fire sale at Collingwood this offseason again?
Well, okay, you explain to me, how are they going to match the bid for Nick Dacos?
Well, can't they go into debt for the next offseason in terms of points?
They can, but no club really wants to do that. I know Fremantle, and I'll get to it a bit later, they did do that a few years ago. Again, I'll explain that a bit later. But they also need to get a Pat Lipinski. Like, what are they going to do? Trade like a future picks? I don't know. Like, it just, they intrigue me this off season. Like last off season, we all know that it was a bit of a shit show, but and I'll go into it a bit later. I thought they had a terrific draft last year, but this off season, I just feel like, they're going to be pretty active because, they're going to need picks to get, Nick Dacos, because even if you include those 4 picks and the 20% discount, they might have to give up. They might be in debt, their first 2 picks next season, which, let's just say you don't want to do that as a football club. That's not something that you want. So do you have any other questions in regards to Collingwood being on my list? Or did I kind of answer that for you?
I might have something once you've once we know the rest of your clubs on the list. But,
Right, so
I think
third
let's
club-
move on to the next one.
Third club, I've got Gold Coast. And I saw the surprised look on your face, and I'll tell you why. Gold Coast have picks 3, 19, 22, 43, 55, 58, and 66. They just signed Marby Chol, and that's interesting. In my case, they do need that support for Ben King, but the reason why I have them as a club that's gonna be busy. There was a rumor the other day that apparently Lockie Weller is not happy with Gold Coast or isn't happy. And I don't know what his contract situation is there, but I don't know if clubs are going to be willing to take a bloke, the contract that he's on, take that with them when he's probably going to get anywhere between 15 to 25 possessions. Like, that's, for the money he's on, that's not worth it. And that's just the way it is. And then those first 3 draft picks I mentioned, 3, 19, 22. Now, we have heard that clubs want to move up. And I'll get to that, with a few clubs. But, I'll mention, some of the clubs, Essendon, Richmond, St Kilda. Richmond have been linked to be wanting to move up. They either want to go after Adelaide's pick 4 or pick 3. So teams could really come calling for, some of their early draft picks, which, going by what a few of the, clubs are saying, this draft could go pretty deep. They are really excited with this year's draft pool. And obviously, they have a lot more to watch, a lot more film to watch with, obviously, especially for the Victorian kids that played, they played
a couple games this year.
Yeah, they got to play about 10 games. So that's that with that. Do you have any questions with the Gold Coast?
No, I guess I have more of a comment in that. When you first said Gold Coast, I must admit I was a bit surprised that they're on the top 5 to look out for.
Yep.
But it does make sense in that they have the draft capital. They have the need for some older players, some more mature players that some clubs might be looking to offload for some extra picks. So it's a bit of they're like that going to be that.
Absolutely. And there was the early rumor, that they were willing to trade away their first pick 3, if the player was a genuine superstar. Now, for their needs, I think their midfield's okay. I don't think they need a midfielder. You got Rao, the ruckman's pretty good. Jared Witts, when he does come back. Hugh Greenwood's a tackler. When he's not injured. Hugh Greenwood is a tackling machine. Noah Anderson out there, and Ben Ainsworth, when he pushes up through the mid, he's pretty good. I don't think they need any more mids. They might need a superstar defender, but who'd be willing to want to go up to Gold Coast, as any superstar defender? I can't see that. So that's interesting. Now, the fourth club, and I did give a bit of a hint before, that is Richmond. Now, they had picked 7, 15, 26, 28, 40, 44, and 45. And 45 only just came through for the moment because they just got that for the compensation for Marby Chol. Now, the players that they have been linked to, Robbie Tarrant, he's going to sign a 2-year deal. And Daniel Tarr still ran. But I also heard a rumor that Charlie Curnow, now I don't know if I read much into this, but Charlie Curnow apparently is unhappy and could request a trade to Richmond. I'm not buying into that, I don't think. But, and I say this because, they're going to have their strongest draft hand in about 3 or 4 years, or well, actually probably a bit longer than that. So, and teams will come calling for their picks. That could happen. But as I said before, they are rumored to be interested in either picks 3 or 4. Now, that could be because, they either might be interested in somebody that could slip there, or they could, maybe force the Bulldogs or the Pies. We don't know if Nick Dacos is a certain top 2 pick. That's what most people put him at, but we don't know how clubs are going to rate them. They might want to keep one of those clubs honest with their father-son players, which, fair enough. I remember when they did that a few years ago, back in 2015, they kept Brisbane honest with Eric Hipwood, I'm pretty sure, and they kept another club honest. I know that for a fact. I can't think of the club though. The players lost, but but with this draft haul that they have, I mean, really they could turn things around really quickly, make finals next year. They really could, but that remains to be seen. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Like, do you have any questions on that?
No, not really.
Did that kind of answer your question from before about what I thought of that?
Yeah, I reckon. Yeah, what as Liam said before, well said actually.
Yeah, well, I mean, as I said, they could potentially split pick 7 and move down, but I highly doubt that, considering that the rumors are that they want to move up. So there's obviously somebody that they like that they probably think that won't be there at pick 7, but will be there at pick 3 or 4. So that'll be interesting. Now, the 5th club. Now, Liam, I can't wait to see your face when I say this team. St Kilda.
Well, they do. You know what? They probably do need to do something to get back.
Well, they have picks. That's one of the reasons. They have picks 9, 46, 64. And the player that I have them as rumored to be getting is Peter Laddams. Now, the only
Ruckman on their list.
Oh, yes, but I don't know. But then again, though, Marshall and Ryder were injured, and the other ruckman, Paul Hunter, didn't necessarily do much. I've got them down because they have actually pretty much openly said that they've told clubs that they want to improve their draft position. How the hell are they going to do that? How? Like, are they going to let Seb Ross walk? They could get a second rounder for him, potentially second, third rounder. We don't know. They probably should have let Jack Billings walk as well, in my opinion. They would have gotten something for compensation. But, or whether or not, they split pick 9 and, maybe get it, maybe a first and second rounder. We don't know. You just don't know about that. So, I mean, like, what are your thoughts on that? Is that pretty much like nail it?
I'm gonna have to go with that. Of the 5 clubs in LT's list, but that one's, I guess, like the weakest, because you seem to have based it all on the notion that they want to, or like the fact that they've said that they're interested in getting more draft picks.
Yeah, look, and you're not wrong.
Intrigue surrounding that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that's all right. Look, it'll be definitely interesting to see what happens there. But look, I do agree with you on that point. But I mean, look, most of the time, although it is a rule now where you can trade draft picks on draft night, it does happen a bit, but I mean, you rarely see it. You rarely see clubs really wanting to improve their draft position. Unlike Sydney, Sydney improved their draft position. I'm pretty sure Carlton. I know they didn't necessarily improve their draft position to get Liam Stocker.
Liam Stoker trade, didn't they? They traded with, was it Richmond?
Yeah, they traded with Richmond. Yep. Yeah, pick 19. I'm pretty sure it was, but look, that
19, a late teens pick.
Yeah, which that still mind boggles me. Yeah, look, they may have rated him, but I don't know. You can argue that it's been a 50-50 call with that trade. I mean, yes, Stocker has shown some things, but also, I mean, some of his ball use this year was quite the laughing stock, in my opinion. So that wraps up my 5 clubs to watch out for in this trade period. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope there's probably going to be a few clubs that you want to. Five clubs are going to be the busiest in this trade period, because there's going to be a few clubs that will have busy trade periods, and there's going to be a few clubs that won't. So yeah, it'll be an interesting trade period. Right, so guys, unfortunately, someone had to go. So for the rest of this episode, it's just going to be me and Liam, or Liam and I, sorry. Better correct my English there. So I think the next part I want to talk about is the draft and the NGA rules, because there's been some new rules that have been added, which I don't know if you listeners might be aware of or unaware of. So I'm here to explain it to you. And unfortunately, this is going to be a very, very, it's going to take a lot of explaining to do. Let's just say that. All right. So to start off with the draft, so each draft from picks 1 to 73, they're all worth points. So, for example, pick 1 is worth 3,000 points. Pick 2 is worth 2,517. Pick 3 is worth 2,234. Pick 73 is worth 9. You get it. Like all the picks up until pick 73 are all worth points. Now, let's say, for example, here's the scenario. Let's say Nick Dacos is getting bidded on at pick 2, which is worth 2,517 points. Collingwood would have to find a way to get the draft points they need to match the bid. So the current draft picks, as I stated before, 36, 39, 41, 45, equates to 1,755. Yes, I did the math before. Now, keeping in mind, with these father-son and NGA bids, the club does get a 20% discount. So so they might, yes, they still have to put in the effort, even with the discount. And, they'll have to find their ways. But if they say, for example, as I said, pick 2 is worth 2,517. When they get all their points that they need and it goes over 2,517, and say that they have, say, 10 points left over, their next pick would not be until pick 73, because that's how the point system works. Are you following that? Do you kind of get that?
So if they don't have enough points to be able to match a Dacos bid, then they just get what Dacos and that's it. Pretty much. And one extra pick at the end.
Well, that is the case, but as you stated previously, they could then use the draft points for the future picks, but they'll end up being in a deficit, like we saw with Fremantle when they did that for their next generation academy prospect Liam Henry, and their draft pick the following year, their first pick was pushed back a little bit. So he's going to be, I think he's worth matching the bid on. So, I think Collingwood have got a champion on flags ready to play for them. So, that's the draft rule. So, did you kind of get that with the point system and how it works for the father-son NGA stuff? And by the way, listeners, the NGA stands for Next Generation Academy, which all Victorian clubs have. Well, all clubs have it, but it was introduced to the Victorian teams 4 years ago. This was introduced. So yeah, so that was really cool.
Well, another question I have is how in your scenario Collingwood allowed to bid on Nick Dacos, considering that isn't there a rule there's no bidding on players, academy players taking the top 20?
I'll get to that. No, say the father-son players are completely different to the NGA players. The AFL has stated that. So, I mean, the prime example for the NGA player, and I'll get into that, is Mac Andrew from Melbourne. He was under the Melbourne zone and was a Melbourne Academy player under the Melbourne NGA zone rule. Melbourne cannot match a bid for him because he's going to be taken within the first 21 picks of this draft. So, and thank you for pretty much leading me into this next part of explaining the NGA rules. So last year, the AFL announced from 2021, nominated NGA players will only be eligible to be matched from pick 21 in the 2021 national draft. All other NGA players from pick 41 onwards can be matched by their club using their next available selection. NGA players not picked in the national draft are still eligible to be pre-selected as rookies. So I think we saw that with Alex Davies from Gold Coast. That's what happened with him.
So that's
What
if they don't get drafted at all?
Yeah.
Or
So they can be selected, yeah.
So if they get through
right.
the national draft not being picked, they can put them on their list.
Yeah, pre-selected. They don't have to use it as. I don't think they use that as. I don't think a rookie selection gets used. I think that was the case with Alex Davies.
Oh, okay.
So what does this mean with this new rule? It means that the top 20 picks are protected from NGA players. So no club can get drafted. So no NGA player that's tied to a club can get drafted, or the club cannot match the bid. So, and then from 2022, it gets even slimmer, where instead of pick 21, it's pick 41 from 2022. So essentially the first two rounds are going to be free from, any clubs matching bids, unless of course they are father sons. That's which, I think is fair. I think, if you're, for a club legend or a club player that played 100 games wants to play for the team that their father played for, I'd say let them. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, well, it's worked out pretty well for Brisbane. We've got Jonathan Brown for father-son, so I'm not complaining about the father-son system.
Why is this a rule? Some people at Clubland are calling this the Jamara rule. Because I don't know if anybody remembers, Jamara Ugle-Hagan was tied to the Western Bulldogs in last year, which was pretty much said to be the most compromised draft in history. So, because, there are numerous players taken early-ish that were academy players like Lachie Jones from Port Adelaide, Reef McGuinness from Collingwood, so Connor Downey from Hawthorn. So they're just a couple of examples. But so this, I think this is a good rule, in my opinion. It's I think it just makes, the drafting process fair for clubs. And, mind you, they've come so far from like the academy bidding selections, they've come so far. I recall a few years ago when North Melbourne bidded on Liam Dawson on pick, whatever it was, and Brisbane had to use their selection. And then I think they did the same thing with Harris Andrews. And Brisbane just said, we'll just use pick 60 for Harris Andrews. And Melbourne did the same thing with Isaac Heaney, that same draft. Melbourne bid on him with that. It was either pick 2 or pick 3, and Sydney were forced to use pick 18. So they've come a long way with how the bidding system goes, which, again, as I said, is fair. But in terms of the northern states, these rules do not apply to them because, whether that's because, they've had their academies up there for a few years now.
Well, that makes sense, actually, I think, because they're in rugby heartland, Sydney and Queensland. They're rugby states more than their Aussie rules.
Oh, that's true.
So the academies are more so than as like an avenue to get players for their own teams. They're an avenue for getting players into the sport, aren't they?
So one out of any Colin Woods played rugby as a junior and then made the switch to AFL. I'm sure one of them did that. And I agree with you. I think it's fair. I think the Giants Academy came under scrutiny because they were getting so many good players from their academy, and it all started because of Eddie Maguire having a big hissy fit. And it was literally because of him that GWS didn't have or weren't allowed to select Jared Brender as part of their academy. He was booted from I'm not saying the academy, but the GWS's zone was limited. And then the other bit of news I got with this rule, the NGA stuff, is the Western Australian and South Australian clubs got the approval of having Metro Indigenous players added to the NGA zones, and this previously wasn't the case. So, again, I think that's fair. you know, although they are a football state primarily, but, you know, I think it's quite fair that, you know, this is the case. I don't know about you. Like, what do you think of that? You know, the other east, the Western states getting, you know, this access.
I know. I really don't. It's like the problem with all these academies is that, well, yeah, the problem with the academies is that the league has a draft so that the talent gets equally distributed. So
Yeah.
all these academies, yes, they make elite footballers, but the problem is that then the clubs feel like they have a certain level of like entitlement to getting that player on their list.
So pretty much what you're saying is like it's compromise. Like it's compromising the purpose of having a draft.
Yeah. But
All right.
it also increases like the quality of the draft.
Oh, I agree.
So
You know,
it's
look,
like it's a double-edged sword because you have
yeah. I mean, when you think about it, they did have, like, for about 2 years in the 80s, they had these zones. And, you know, completely different back then because, you know, Richmond had, I think, Majura up there as one of their zones. And it's like, well, I mean, I'm not saying that Majura doesn't produce good footballers, but good Lord, that's a long way to send your scouts and just say, look, you want to become a Richmond footballer. They weren't very happy. I know Carlton benefited from it. They really did because that's where they got all their good players. Right, so we all know that in order to be successful, you do need talented players. Yes, I mean, you just look at Melbourne. You know, they had Petrarca, Oliver, you know, Jake Lever, you know, Angus Brayshaw. You know, pretty good. You know, pretty talented. But you also cannot win a grand final without having your role players, essentially. Like, if, like, you look at what Cal Toomey said on the AFL, I'm just going to call it trade radio. That's pretty much what he said. He could pick Jake Bowie out of all the draft to Jake Bowie. You know, out of all the draft days from last year, no one could have pictured that Jake Bowie was going to be, one, a premiership player, but two, a premiership player for Melbourne. Which brings me to this point. I believe Paul Roos needs to be given credit for Melbourne's flag. You know, he took over the club when they were, you know, at the bottom of the barrel. You know, I recall the deal which they sent pick 2 in exchange for pick 9 and Dom Tyson in a trade deal, and they copped a lot of flack for it. And the bloke they ended up picking up with pick 9 was Christian Salem. Now, I'm not saying Jake...
He's an all right player. He's pretty decent.
My word, he is. And there's still talk that, you know, if they had to redraft that particular draft, Melbourne would still take Christian Salem over Jake Kelly. So, all right, Josh Kelly, my bad. Josh Kelly.
Yeah, you've got Essendon players on the brain, don't you? You biased, one-eyed Essendon fan.
Look, I made a mistake and I corrected myself.
Hey, I'm just letting the people know that you're a one-eyed Essendon supporter.
Hey, look.
No. It's fine. I trust your ability to not be biased. I trust it.
Thank you. I appreciate your trust.
Most of the time.
Yeah, look, most of the time. Yeah, look, I appreciate you believing in me like that. But no, I did correct myself. But that's besides the point.
Well, that's a nice segue into Jake Kelly. Too bad that we still have more to say about Melbourne.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But Paul Roos, he made a name of himself at Sydney for emphasising a team mentality, a team first mentality. You know, you look at those Sydney players that he had. Yeah, he had some talented players, but by gee, he had a lot of role players. Like, you wouldn't necessarily say Ryan O'Keefe, Jude Bolton were household names. At the club, yes, they played. Jude Bolton played over 300 games, and Ryan O'Keefe, I think he played just shy of 300, but they weren't household names, and it's carried over to Melbourne. I mean, they don't care about personal achievements. I mean, you heard Petrarca on Brownlow night. He didn't necessarily care if he won the Brownlow or not. All he wanted was the flag. He said the same thing with the Norm Smith. He wanted the flag for Melbourne and Melbourne supporters because they've been through a lot. And the other thing with Paul Riz was he didn't care who you were, because if you didn't play your role, you weren't selected. That's why they got guys like Daniel Cross. He was the former Bulldog, and then he came over to Melbourne in a coaching role. I don't know if he's still there or how long he was there, but he played. He also had a part to play. And as I said, it's what made him so successful at Sydney. Just emphasising that the team first. Team before me, team before personal achievements. And what's the team achievement? Winning that bloody premiership, and that's exactly what Melbourne did. And it's not hard to say why Simon Goodwin is a premiership coach. The other thing about Melbourne that I want to talk about now, yes, his name has popped up a lot because of Melbourne and who he is and whatnot. And that's Nathan Jones. The ultimate team player. Instead of staying in Perth where the grand final was going to be played, he went back home to his wife, who gave birth to twins. Now, to put this into context, he arrived at Melbourne he was drafted in 2005, 2006. So when you think about that, he'd been through all those tough years, 07, 08, 09. He was part of the team that got flogged in Geelong in 11, 2012, 2013. He was a part of those sides. And you know what? He could have left to chase a flag. He could have said to Melbourne, stuff yous. I want to chase success. And no one would have blamed him if he had left. But he stayed with his team because he wanted to see this team be a competitor, which they are now, and to just be, for a club to stand on its, 2 feet, because let's be honest, they really struggled. And, he guided these young guys, he guided Angus Brayshaw, he guided Clayton Oliver. He saw the rise of the development of Max Gawn. He was, when he was at Melbourne, Jesse Hogan, when he was coming through, how good he was at Melbourne.
You're buffering again.
Jesse Hogan. But with Nathan Jones, it just...
What were you saying about Jesse Hogan? You started buffering.
So Jesse Hogan...
started buffering.
People often forget how important Jesse Hogan was to that 2018 side. Now, I'm not saying he would have made the difference in the prelim because, we all know what happened there. But
good trade bait, though, wasn't he?
He was, at the time, very good trade bait. And, look, it's unfortunate, but the thing with Nathan Jones, he was the one player that I think he's the one player, over 300 games for one club. Loyalty these days is very hard to come by with AFL clubs. Probably more in particular Victorian players playing interstate. And I just marvel at how selfless he was. In fact, I'd say his decision to go back is almost as selfless as what former Collingwood player Simon Prestigiacomo did in 2010 when he ruled himself out of the grand final with injury. He ruled himself out, and he got a reward. When I say he got a reward, like he's remembered at that club for his selfless acts. Now, I don't know if it's in particular their top pick, but I know one of their draft picks is awarded to wear the number 35. A first-year player wears number 35, which goes to teach these young players what it means to be a footballer, to be a selfless team player. not a selfish. We've seen plenty of players, good players that are just selfish and just want it to be all about them. Heck, I could think of Patrick Dangerfield. He doesn't care.
Jordan De Goey?
No, De Goey's, my opinion of De Goey's changed. I think since he started playing the mid, I think he's been a lot better.
Okay, so forward line De Goey then.
But yeah, forward line De Goey, maybe a bit of a selfish player, but midfield De Goey, I give him the A-OK. Same with Jake Stringer.
Wait, you rate midfield De Goey as a player?
He does need to tidy up his ball use. I will say that, but you compare his first half of the season when he was playing forward mid, wasn't necessarily doing much, to then being their top, one of their top 3 disposal winners in most of the games for the rest of the season. I think he did well. And, it's the same with Jake Stringer. Good probably lead into the next segment I want to talk about, which is the Essendon Football Club and Jake Kelly. Now, with Jake Stringer, I think for him, he has to start in centre square. Centre square bounces. We saw the impact he made in multiple games, not just when his contract was up, but he probably had, as a footballer, his most consistent season as a footballer. Yes, I'd say better than the year that he went All-Australian. Because I'd say back then he was a selfish player. Now, yes, you could say that I'm probably being a bit biased. And look, I'm going to say, quite frankly, I disagree with people that believe that. But if you look, his
they traded him.
Tackle numbers, his total tackles for the season skyrocketed. Disposals per game skyrocketed. He was averaging 16 disposals and averaging 2 goals a game. For a part-time mid/forward, split his time, that's impressive. That is really impressive. And people are giving him crap for how bad he played in the elimination final. He had 9 touches, kicked 2 goals, 1, but he laid 8 tackles. That was the second most on the ground. So his effort was there. If this was previous Jake Stringer, he wouldn't have probably given this much effort. But he tried to the very end. And I think people just need to give him the credit he deserves. And, well, the other player I want to talk about is Jake Kelly. Now, when I first heard that the Bombers were interested in him, I thought to myself, don't we already have enough, well, I won't say enough defenders, but, we've already got enough medium to tallish defenders. But then...
Defend.
Very good point.
It's not just defend. It's defend.
See, people often confuse the meaning of defend, and defend. Defend, you start in the defense. Adam Sard starts in defense, but he's not a defender. He's not a defender. It got to the point where he got outmarked by a fourth gamer, Devin Robinson, who kicked 2 goals on him in about 5 minutes. It was
What a jet. He's a midfielder.
Definitely no bias there. But
what do you mean no bias? Devin Robinson's a jet. You could ask any fan of the AFL and they'd say Devin Robinson is a jet.
Well, look, he might be somebody that we might talk about later in another episode.
Well, we're not talking about Essendon. Yeah, I see how it is.
So now I did see a stat where it's either from 2007 to 2018. I do know that I saw this, but Champion Data, since those particular years, has lost only 18% of 1v1 contests, which places him second best as a defender. Now, what does this mean? Well, one, for starters, Essendon have not had a lockdown defender in so long.
Who is your last lockdown defender? Buffering.
Well,
Buffering, hold on. Hold on.
Hang on, we're buffering in a minute.
Hey.
Oh,
Who would you say is Essendon's last lockdown defender? Oh, you're doing fingers, hold on.
What?
Who would you say is Essendon's last lockdown defender?
Geez, that's if we're talking just pure defender, full back, back pocket, half back. Carl Hooker, his 2014 season was magnificent. But if we're talking small defender, I really don't know. I'm tempted to go back and say as far back as Mark Johnson, which is going back a long, long way. But he would play, Kelly will be playing on the small forwards. And I think we all know Essendon have a history of letting the small forwards dominate them. But he can also play on the taller forwards as well. He could play on somebody like Mitch Georgiades or Bailey Fritsch and lock them down. But he can also play on guys like Tom Papley, Cody Waitman, Charlie Cameron. You know, he can play on those guys and he can lock them down one-on-one. Going by those stats. Now, what does this mean for two players? Well, one player I had in mind was, I don't think James Stewart would be too confident heading into season 2022 because the Bombers are obviously really committed to playing Zach Reid early next year, as early as round 1. That's the word going around at the football club. Now, Zach Reid's the fullback. He'd be the fullback. That's pure. And, you know, you look at the other defenders. I mean, Jake Kelly would probably start back pocket. Ridley would start. Oh, no, Laverde would start in the other back pocket. And he's another player that really turned his career around, had a sensational year. And then, you know, you got Heppel, Ridley, and Hine. That's Essendon's best back six. Sorry, that's Essendon's back six, in my opinion.
Redmond?
Redmond would start on the bench, in my opinion. Out of all those, like he's not a very good one-on-one lockdown. Although he did improve, he's not a very good lockdown. He's an interchange role player. That's at the moment he's a role player. He's still up and coming, but he's a bit of a role player. But the other thing I found interesting was listening to Essendon GM Josh. I'm going to call him Marnie. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce his name. He stated that he'd like the Bombers to improve their draft position. Well, I mean, it's all good in saying that. Well, I mean, obviously, one, I think every GM would like that. They'd like their club to improve their draft position. You can ask any of them. But how are they going to do that? The one player I thought they could have used as trade bait, probably wouldn't have got much for him, was Aaron Francis. The Bombers are committed to having him.
Why are they playing him nowadays?
He did start as a defender last year. He got injured, and then they played him as a forward. But that's the best. I don't think that's the option for him as a forward. I think he's really poor as a forward. And while Dylan Shield won't be going anywhere, despite all these unfair rumours that the Bombers could use him as trade bait, he is a required player. And people forget, he missed 4 months of football. And the GM put it, you know, Josh Marnie put it, you know, pretty much summed it up perfectly. How about you go try, and after missing 4 months with I'm pretty sure he had the, was it a medial ligament with his knee? He did something really nasty with his knee or ankle. I'm pretty sure it was his knee. How about you go out for 4 months and then try regain momentum to finish the year? Like, it rarely happens. It doesn't happen. McGrath tried it and he was limited. He didn't do much after he came back. He didn't. So he'll be back, hopefully fit and firing next year. And I'm talking about Shield. But then the other one is they shouldn't be trading future. They shouldn't trade future draft picks for two reasons. One, they've got a father-son prospect who's shaping up to be a top 20, possibly top 10 selection, and that's Alan Davies Jr. The other twin's is not bad either. And apparently another rumor going around with the Bombers is that they're going to really throw the kitchen sink at Ben King. And if he nominates Essendon, how are they going to get it done if they have no draft picks next year? But if they do trade up, for example, they must have a player who they believe is either going to fall, either fall into the second round because, that's the word. Like they're hoping to get. They think there are going to be really good players in between the ranges of 10 and 25. So obviously they think somebody. They already have one pick inside that range. That's pick 11, which is going to get pushed back. So the Bombers already have pick 11, which is more than likely going to get pushed back due to the academy picks or the academy and father-son bids. But they want another pick, obviously, in between 10 and 25. Now, whether that means somebody's going to be there at the time when they trade up, if they do, remains to be seen. And, if that's the case, I'm a bit, it's a bit, it's an interesting situation because, they want to go after Ben King. They haven't, that's no secret. They really want to pursue Ben King. So, yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting debacle. I don't know if that's the right word or if that's even a word.
Actually, as an interesting little bit of a segue, how do you feel about the way that the AFL, like the other AFL clubs, seem to treat Gold Coast and its players? Like in that they always say that they want to leave, and they're always talking about, oh, we'd love to add him, or when Port Adelaide, I think it was, when they drafted Lukosius and Rankin at like picks 2 and 3, and then said, oh, it's all right, we'll see Rankin in 3 years when he comes down to us.
Yeah, look, I'm not a huge fan of that. I mean, people give Gold Coast a lot of crap for being so bad. Well, how about stop taking the bloody players from them? Like, as much as I'd like to see Ben King at Essendon, he needs to stay at Gold Coast for that team to have a future of any sort. Because if he leaves, then they're just in another hole. They need to draft another forward. When, they've spent, what people don't seem to realise, clubs invest so much in especially in their top draft picks. So, in this case, they've been putting in a lot of time to Matt Rao, Noah Anderson, Lukosius, Rankin, the bloke from last year, Elijah Hollands, and obviously Ben King. Now, what's the point of them having a football club if all you're going to do is just take their stars?
If it's just a talent development team for every other team in the AFL.
Same with the Giants. I mean, there was in Kevin Sheedy's book, he literally wrote up like a team. Like he went to his wobbly. We all know what Kevin Sheedy's like. Not personally, but we read how what he stories. He literally wrote up on a whiteboard the best 22 former GWS players, and they had guys like Adam Treloar, Will Hoskin Elliott. I don't know if he had Rory Lobb up there, but Dylan Shield, Devon Smith. He wouldn't have had James Stewart. He's not that much of a player, but I mean, you get what I mean. Like, it's just unfair, and really, you could say that for all the interstate clubs. Like, I mean, look, as much as I liked it when Essendon drafted Archie Perkins, and look, I'm a bit 50-50 when
Perkins the one that said that he didn't want to get drafted outside of Victoria.
Yes. Now, as I said, I'm a bit 50-50 with that because, look, one, he was being honest, and you'd rather players being honest than that. But on the other side, what about all these other professional athletes that literally go overseas, like Andrew Bogut? He has no sympathy for these guys that want to go home. Because didn't he go over to America with like nobody?
He went to college at Utah University, I think.
Did he know anybody there? Like, did he have any?
No, yeah, he went over there and then played basketball, and then was the number 1 pick in the NBA draft.
Well, I agree. I have no sympathy, not much sympathy for players that want to go home. Not much. Adam Chera, like him as a player, but now he's going to be known as a mama's boy because he's just come home.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily that. It's a bit like he's played this football at Fremantle, right? And now...
But he's very good mates with Andrew Brayshaw. Very good mates. Now, I actually don't think they played Cat Cup together. They may have, I'm pretty sure they played together in Vic Metro, but, as I said, interstate clubs invest a lot. I mean, not necessarily interstate clubs. In fact, all clubs put in a lot of time and effort for their top draftees. And, and look, we know with some of the young players, they can go chase the coin. Look at Tom Scully when he left Melbourne to go to the Giants. He chased the coin. There's no doubt about that. Probably midfield money when he's probably only going to, at best, play high half forward in stoppages. Now,
he's more likely to play in the middle of Fremantle, isn't he?
Yeah, but who are Carlton's inside bids? I mean, you've got Cripps, Walsh. Technically, he's an inside mid because if you look at the stats, he rarely played on the wing, which is where he was selected on the All-Australian team, which that's another topic for another day.
Hugh McCulloch's robbed. Seeds was robbed.
Yep. I 100% agree. Again, that's a topic for another day.
All these Lions topics for another day. I'm trying to think.
Yep. Paddy Dow. I mean, he's another one that, when he did. Now, I'd still say he's a bust from that draft. In his draft, I'd say.
It's not a chance, though. It's not like he's.
It's not his
over
fault.
the hill.
Not his fault. And I just think that, I just don't agree, and then, you got those other players that, like, for example, Dylan Shield. There were 4 clubs chasing him. I remember this perfectly because he was, and I'm not saying this because he chose Essendon or whatnot, but when he was at the Giants, he was my favourite GWS player. I loved the way he went about it. He always spoke professionally. He had 4 clubs chasing him: Carlton, St Kilda, Hawthorn, and Essendon. Out of all the 4 clubs, guess which team offered him the least amount of money per year?
Essendon.
Yes. Every other club offered him $1 million. Carlton offered him 1.3 million. St Kilda 1.1 and Hawthorn $1 million or just over. And I mean that stuff. I mean, look, still doesn't sit well with me that most Victorian players want to go home. Look, I understand why. Like originally Dane Beams' situation where his father was very sick. That's an understandable reason. If you've got like a sick relative or you just whatnot, like a situation like that, well, that's understandable. But if it's just because I want to go home and whatnot, blah blah blah. I mean, in the world we live in today, there are still people in Australia overseas that haven't been home in 2 odd years. Imagine what they're going through. Yet you're a professional athlete wanting to go home because your mummy misses you. Like, what? Like, this is where I go, cry me a river. Like, cry me a river. All right. That's a good way to say that's enough of the LT rant of the disagreement I have with Victorian players wanting to go home. Now, there's a team I want to talk about, which I find interesting. Now, if you had told, well, I'll ask you a question. Did you honestly expect either Essendon or Sydney to make the finals in 2021?
Pre-season? No.
Pre-season, no. What do those two teams have in common?
Youth.
Going correct. They had youth, and sometimes youth can do funny things. Young teams can make finals. We saw with the Bulldogs in 2016, they went all the way. Would you say the Giants were reasonably young when they went to the grand final in 2019?
Yeah, they would have been.
Reasonably young, Sam Taylor. Sam Taylor's a gun. I don't care what anyone says. He is a future All-Australian player. He could potentially be All-Australian next year. He is probably their top three most important player at the Giants. You look at the job he did on Buddy in the final, and I thought he did it right. But that's besides the point. I've got Collingwood, and I'm going to list players that they've taken in the previous two drafts and the amount of games they've played so far. Pick 40 in the 2019 draft, they selected Jai Rantel. So Jai Rantel, pick 40, 4 games. Pick 45, Trent Bianco, 11 games. 55, Trey Rusco, 13 games. Now, last year's draft, pick 17, Oliver Henry. Pick 19, Finley McRae, 9 games. Pick 23, Reece McGuinness. He was the academy player, didn't play a game. Pick 30, Caleb Poulter, 11 games. And pick 31, Liam McMahon, 0 games. And mind you, this year they're going to get Lipinski, who's about 23, and they're going to get Nick Dacos. Now, what's to say, why can't Collingwood make finals next year? There's no reason why they can't.
They'll not figure out how to kick the ball through the middle sticks.
No, that was an issue Fremantle had. Fremantle had that issue the whole year. Collingwood, yeah, look, they did have their goal kicking issues, but I think, if that gets sorted, and you bring in youth, youth will tend to lead to just excitement around the squad. We saw with the Bombers, everybody was predicting them to finish bottom 2, bottom 3, bottom 4. I said at the start of the year, and you can vouch for me on this to prove that I wasn't BSing. I said if we finished roughly 14 or 12 to 14, winning 6 to 8 games, I would have been happy. You can vouch for me on that.
This is the first season in a while where you haven't gone into a season saying, "Oh yeah, we'll make finals."
Exactly. But
finals,
but you can vouch for me. That's along the lines of what I said, correct?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
no, you did. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we saw what the likes of Nick Cox, Archie Perkins, Zach Reid only played 1 game, and unfortunately happened to be against a team that actually got back into form and in torrential rain in the first half. Or why say torrential? That's a bit much, but like a ground that was just water, and then it got dry, and he didn't necessarily have a good game. But Jordan Ridley took his game to a new level. Who else did we see? Sam Durham showed how tough he was when we selected him. He impressed me, especially in the final. Jai Caldwell. So we've seen what the youth, and for Sydney, Logan McDonald did all right early. Ural Golden looked like he was going to be the rising star, and then was, I won't say hit and miss, but he was pretty good.
Him, didn't they?
Sorry?
They stopped picking him.
They stopped picking him, yep.
Same thing happened with Braden Campbell?
Braden Campbell. But, they had Justin McInerney, who's still pretty young in his career. Chad Warner, Sam Wicks. And, Ollie Florin and Will Hayward are still young. Will Hayward, people forget, if he can elevate his game from, instead of getting 10 disposals a game to 15 disposals and kicking a goal or 2 a game, that improves that side massively. Like, people forget in his draft year, I know under 18s is a different level, but he was a South Australian. He is a South Australian. And he played central. He was averaging 21 disposals and kicking 3 goals in his draft year. And I did say, I do recall in that particular draft, I wanted him to slip to our second pick, which was pick 22 in that draft. And I was devastated when Sydney picked him. Fortunately, though, we ended up getting Jordan Ridley or Essendon. I can't say we. We cannot refer to our team as we at all in this podcast. Make that a rule, especially for you. I reckon you'll bugger that up a couple of times.
What?
Yes. You heard me straight, damn straight. We cannot refer to our team as we. That's off limits. Off limits.
Really?
Yes, really. Now
I think I've already done it. I think I've already done it a bit this podcast.
Well, now you know how serious I am, and I can see the look on your face. You're like, oh no, damn. He's really.
It's gonna happen. I can't control it.
Look, it's the same with me. But I kind of lost where I was going with that.
We were talking about how you wanted Essendon to get Hewitt.
Yeah,
you got Ridley instead. You poor team.
Poor
unfortunate AFL team.
Hang on a minute. At the moment, he probably played better football than Harris Andrews did later in the year. Now, that's another topic we can talk about.
Why is it every time you mention Brisbane, you're saying, we'll talk about it in another podcast?
You know what? We'll talk about that in the next episode.
You know what, Lachlan? Episode, I'm just going to whip out all the Brisbane stuff I can talk about. I'm going to chat your ear off for an hour.
No, hang on. This was the first time. I barely spent.
I know. You're buffering. This is unfortunate. You're buffering through. I'm buffering through your outrage. This is brilliant.
Damn it!
Okay, hold on. Oh, okay. I'm not buffering. You can start your outrage again. I think you were saying something about this is the first time and then you. Yeah,
this is the first. Before, this year how critical I was of Essendon. That I was so critical of how, the effort. That first half against Port Adelaide was utter pathetic. And you can't forget the round 1 fade out. That was, I don't know. But
hey, I'm with you on round 1 performances. We got annihilated by Sydney.
Again, stop saying we. Stop! We can't be doing this. This is, you know what? It's too late to rage and go on a rant, but you know what? I'm going to do it anyway because I know my neighbours hate me. So, no more referring to our teams as we. And you know what? This is definitely going on the outrage part. I know that for a fact. No more. Oh fuck! I took my headphones off. Oh shit! You got me that. Hey. You got me that worked up now that I have to start swiping my hand. But no, in all seriousness though, we're going to have to edit a lot of this shit out. No, but to start this season, as I said, I never expected Nick Cox to have the impact he did. I mean, I know I have a friend, right, that goes for Carlton. Hey, I saw the message. That's not very nice.
What message?
Hey, help me. Loki's raging. You should have said something like LT's raging or something like that.
Who's your Carlton supporting friend? Is it Chris?
No, I don't like him. No, it was a friend that I finished school with, and he would you consider me a biased person? Or in the past, would you have considered me as a really biased person when it comes to football? In the past,
I guess you're biased in the fact that a lot of what you talked about had to do with Essendon, but it wasn't. I wouldn't really call it being like a one-eyed.
Yeah,
sort of bias. Because
this guy was he's really biased. He was saying how pretty much, I said something about how Nick Hine, and, this isn't just facts, that he replaced Adam Sard. Is that like a fair assumption that Nick Hine is probably double the player Adam Sard is? I mean that.
Did he play better than Sard this season? Like, no, not like this season, like Sard at Carlton. Did he play better than Sard when he first got to Essendon?
Yes.
Because you loved Sard when he first got to Essendon. You were absolutely wrapped with the pickup.
Yep. But as the past couple of years where I have slowed down with how biased I am, I reckon that's putting it a bit lightly, but I noticed that Sard wasn't a very good defender. And in crucial moments, he'd make mistakes, like really bad ones. Like that Giants game when we lost by 2 points, that was because of him. Well, not because of him, but he just made some crucial errors. And then after hearing that he didn't want to do the shutdown role, was scary. And then I don't know if you heard what Brendan Goddard said this morning. What he was like, he had to remind Sard that he can't just keep attacking. So he pretty much just summed up my point really well. But Nick Hine this season played better than Sard. Would you say Nick Hine had a better year than Adam Sard this year? Would you agree?
Weren't there arguments made that Nick Hine was quite possibly Recruit of the Year?
Yes, but I think I'd go. That's true, but I reckon he'd be third to behind either. We'll go Ali number 1 and Hickey number 2. And I reckon,
Isaac Smith wasn't Isaac Smith pretty good for Geelong?
Yeah, but I mean, he only averaged 20-something touches on the wing, low 20s. I'd say the fourth, and again, now this might be a bit biased. I will say this because I do love this player, and I was gutted when he left. Danaher, now you might sit there and go, he had a shocking final series, but
a goal in every game of the season, until final.
But it was his first full year in how many years? 4 years. 3, 4, 5, 4 years. It was his first full preseason in 4 years. You cannot tell me that. You can't tell me a player in their first, having their first full preseason in 4 years is just gonna, be consistent throughout the whole year and be perfect. You can't tell me that. With him, I think it was unfortunate when Hipwood went down with the ACL.
I just can't wait till Brisbane get Cam Rayner and Eric Hipwood back.
See, I don't know. I thought Cam Rayner, when he did play, before he did his knee, I thought he went backwards from his first and second year.
You watch when Cam Rayner comes back. Oh, it's going to be good.
He's going to average.
Maybe not next year, but the year after.
Oh, wait, when he's going from averaging 8 disposals a game to 10, when he's a bull and should be playing in the midfield. I'm just stating out facts. It's because of Lachie Neal that he's not seeing any midfield minutes, and that's a pure fact too.
He was seeing midfield minutes though. Not as many as he probably should, but he was definitely at centre bounces.
I only noticed him in a couple.
Yeah, but do you watch every Brisbane game? Every minute of every Brisbane game?
I can't say I do, no.
I can't say I watch every minute of every Essendon game. But I watch every minute of every Brisbane game.
Oh, so their final series must have been really tough for you then.
At least we can win a final.
Hey, no one's taking a dig. Bro, I'm just disappointed that none of your players knocked the fuck out of
None of my players?
Oh, sorry, one of Brisbane players. I'm so disappointed. We hope you like our discussions. And don't forget, if you have any thoughts on the topics that we've spoken about, don't be afraid to DM us. And yeah, we're looking forward to hearing